As a book or a story ever changed your life? Well, I came across a story that changed my life. That I started a community organization, and then that community organization right now owns a business because of that story. And the story is about the stone soup. So the story goes, an angry traveler comes to a village and starts asking villagers for food. Everyone else told them they really barely have anything to feed their families. And instead of getting frustrated, so he went to where the village normally gathers and he got a stone. He asked someone for a big saucepan. They gave him a saucepan. And then he asked someone for water. And then he announced to the village that he's going to make stone soup. Now this got villagers curious. Stone soup? How? So the kids in the village started gathering around. And before you know it, villagers also, the other people, started gathering. And then started boiling his water and then eventually putting the stone. And he said, actually, it would be better with some salt. And one of the women would gather and said, oh, I have some salt. She wants to bring some salt. Actually says, onions would improve it. And then someone with onions says, oh, I have onions. They run to bring the onions. And before you know it, someone was holding tomatoes, cabbage, carrots. They all ran and bought whatever the little they had. Now, when the guys were holding meat, notice the people with the bad brought. They also said, oh, we have some meat we can bring to the table. So they brought meat. And then the guys of tomato, over potatoes, Irish, millet, they also went and brought these things. Now, eventually, the whole village had enough delicious soup to feed on. But while they were doing this cooking, they talked, they laughed, they joked with a stranger. Now, this story changed my life. But I read another book that is also changing my life. The book is called The Nine Lies About Work. Free thinking, The Nine Lives About Work, free thinking, a free thinking guide. No, sorry about that. The book is called The Nine Lives About Work, about Free Thinking Leader's Guide to the Real World by Marcus Banningham and Ashley Goodall, 2019. So I'm going to compare the two, the story and the book, and I relate them for you, and later on I'll tell you how they changed my life. Okay, so after reading Banningham and Goodall's 2019 Nine Lives About Work, I found that the book challenges several assumptions I have held about leadership, performance, management, planning, teamwork, employment development, and organizing success. As a marketer, I work in an environment where success depends on collaboration, stakeholder coordination, creativity, responsiveness to market changes, and the ability to deliver results through other people. So for these reasons, several of these nine truths spoke directly to my professional. And this is how. So this is what I liked about the book. What I like most about the book is that it emphasizes on people as an individual rather than standardizing organizational resources. Across the nine truths, Banningham and Goodall repeatedly challenge systems that try to make everyone think, perform, develop, and lead in the same way. The first truth is people care which team they are on, particularly resonates with me. In my work at UTB, many of the activities we undertake, international exhibitions, destination campaigns, road shows, media activations, stakeholder engagements, are implemented through teams. An organization may have an excellent strategy and a strong brand, but the equity The quality of the immediate team determines how effectively the strategy is executed. This is similar to the stone soup village. Stone soup. The village itself does not produce a soup, but a soup emerges when an individual begins operating as a team around the cooking pot. I therefore like Buckingham and Goodall's emphasis on strengthening the teams because it reflects the reality that organization performance is ultimately delivered by people working together. I also strongly like the second truth: the best intelligence wins. Marketing operates in a constantly changing environment. Consumer preference change, digital platforms evolve, competitors introduce new campaigns, travel patterns change, unexpected opportunities emerge. Therefore, a marketing plan developed several months earlier cannot anticipate everything. Buckingham and Goodall argue that argument does not mean that I should not I should abandon planning. What I take from it is that I should avoid becoming a prisoner of the plan. Plan should provide direction, while intelligence should inform our decisions as circumstances change. This is especially relevant to the destination marketing, where marketing intelligence visitors behavior, uh, airline connectivity, digital analytics, travel trend feedback, and competitor activities should continuously influence implementation. Another idea I particularly like was the truth three. The best companies is cascade meaning. I have learned that telling someone what to do is different from helping them understand why it matters. When employees understand the bigger purpose, they are more likely to take ownership of their own work rather than simply completing or compiling with instructions. The stone soup, pardon me, the stone soup provides a useful way for me to reflect on these lessons. The traveler succeeded not because he possessed all the resources himself, but because he recognized that different people can contribute and bring those contribution together around a shared purpose. In many ways, this is also how I now understand the central message of Buckingham and Godot. Organization performance perform better when they are recognize the uniqueness of people rather than trying to standardize them. And what I liked, sorry, yeah, the stone soup traveler does not ex, does not does does this exactly. He does not allocate targets such as two opinions per household, two onions per household. He creates a shared idea. We are making something together, and people eventually decide that they can contribute. This has reinforced my belief that as a leader, I should communicate not only tasks and targets, but also the purpose behind them. I also appreciate truth for the best people are spiking. The rethink. Truthful helped me rethink the traditional emphasis on correcting people's weakness. People are different, and those differences can strengthen a team. In marketing, one person may be excellent at creative conceptualization, another at stakeholder engagement, another at digital analytics, another at public speaking, and another at implementation. Trying to make all five equally good at everything may eventually weaken the team. The stone soup illustrates this beautifully. One villager brings salt, another brings vegetables, another meat, another firewood. Nobody has everything, but collectively they have enough. Therefore, I increasingly believe that the objective should be to build well rounded teams from spike individuals rather than trying to create perfectly well rounded individuals. Another truth that stood out for me was truth number 5. People need attention. Banking and Goodall, distinction between feedback and attention is powerful. Managers frequently notice employees when something has gone wrong. Yet, correcting failure primarily teaches people how to avoid failure. It does not necessarily teach them how to achieve excellence. I like the idea of catching people doing something exceptionally well and helping them recognize exactly what worked. In the future, I want to become more deliberately about saying, in fact, yes, that when I observe excellence. I also found truth 7. People have momentum compelling. I do like the idea of permanently categorizing employees as having high potential, or I don't like the idea of permanently categorizing employees as having high potential and low potential. Such labels can influence people to receive opportunities, training, exposure, and attention can consequently become self-fulfilling. Momentum feels more developmental. Instead of asking whether someone has potential, I can ask where is this person going? Sorry about that. I can ask where is this person going? What are they learning? What are they becoming better at? What experiences would help them become better? This creates a conversation rather than a judgment. I finally, but you like truth 9. We follow spikes. This truth challenged my thinking about leadership itself. I previously tended to think of effective leaders as people who possessed a broad collection of leadership competencies. Banking and Goodall instead encourage us to understand that distinctive about ourselves and deepen those qualities. The Stone Soup Villagers illustrated, the Stone Soup Traveler illustrated this. He has no formal authority, money, or food, yet people follow him because he has a distinctive ability to see possibility where others see scarcity and mobilize people around that possibility. For me, this is an important leadership lesson. I do not have to be excellent at everything to lead effectively. I need to understand my strongest contribution, develop it, and use it in ways that give other people confidence. What I did not like and why. Although I found the book very provoking, I did not agree equally on every argument. My best concern is that one of the lies are presented in a way that can appear too absolute. For example, I agree that truth 2, that intelligence is incredible, is critical, but I would not conclude that planning is therefore unimportant. In my professional environment, plans are necessary for budgeting, procurement, accountability, coordination, and measurement. An organization cannot simply respond continuously to new intelligence without some agreed direction. And therefore, my interpretation is not planning or intelligence. It is plan for direction, but use intelligence for adaptation. Similarly, I agree with the best companies cascade meaning, but organizations still require goals and measured targets. Meaning, without measured results, can create enthusiasm without accountability. I therefore see meaning and goals as complementary. Meaning explains why, goals establish what success should look like. I also have reservations about taking the best people as spike too far. Strengths should certainly receive more attention, but some weaknesses cannot simply be ignored. If a weakness strengthens professional standards, relationships, individual accountability, or organization performance, it must be addressed. I therefore would apply this truth as develop strength aggressively, manage weakness intelligently, and correct weakness that create serious risk. I had a similar reaction to Truth 8, love in work matters most. I like the concept of identifying our red threads, the activities that energize us, but organization cannot always design work entirely around what employees love doing. There will be always responsibilities that are necessary but not enjoyable. In my view, the practical lesson is not that employees should only do what they love. It is that leaders should try to ensure that people's jobs contain enough energizing work to sustain engagement while helping them manage necessary activities they may not enjoy. Therefore, what I did not like was not necessarily the underlying principle, but the tendency for some of the arguments to appear as either or choices. In practice, I believe effective management requires balance and judgment. What I plan to put into practice. The greatest value of the book for me is what I can change in my own behavior. First, I will invest more deliberate in teams. I want to pay great attention to how people experience the immediate team rather than assuming that organization structure alone create engagement. Second, I will use plans as guides rather than rigid instructions. I will actively seek current intelligence, market data, share stakeholder feedback, campaign performance, consumer insights, emerging opportunities, and be prepared to represent change when evidence suggests that original plan should be adjusted. Third, I will cascade meaning. When assigning work, I want to explain not only what needs to be done, but why it matters and how it can contribute to the organization purpose. Fourth, I will identify people's spikes. Instead of concentrating primarily on weaknesses, I will try to understand what each team member does exceptionally well and create opportunities for those strengthened to contribute to the team's objective. Fifth, I'll give more attention to excellence. I want to become better at noticing when colleagues do something particularly well, stopping to acknowledge it specifically, and help them understand what made their performance effective. Sixth, I'll be more cautious when rating other people. Truth 6 mentioned me reminds me that my assessment of another person's qualities may reveal as much about my own assumption as it does about them. I therefore want to distinguish more carefully between observable behavior, my personal experience, and my interpretation of another person's character or ability. Seventh, I will think about momentum rather than potential. When considering people's development, sorry about that. When considering people's development, I want to ask where they are moving, what they are learning, what they love doing, and what opportunity could help them take the next step. Eighth, I will pay attention to my own great threats. I want to identify the parts of my work that give me the greatest energy and determine how I can incorporate more of these activities into my professional development while finding better ways of managing activities and constantly train me. Finally, I will develop my own leadership spikes. Instead of attempting to copy another leader or become equally good at every leadership competence. I want to understand that I will uniquely bring to the leadership situation and deliberately strengthen those qualities. Personal reflection, my stone soup leadership lesson. My important lesson I take from both 9 Lives About Work and the Stone Soup is that a leader does not have to bring everything to the table. Sometimes the leader's greatest contribution is getting everyone else to bring something to the table. This requires humility. If I believe leadership means personally possessing all the answers, resources, abilities, I may overlook the knowledge, relationship, experience, ideas, and strengths already available among the people around me. The Stone Soup theory demonstrates the kind of leadership I would like to put into practice. It recognizes the resources that already exist. It creates a compelling shared purpose, starts with what is available, values different individual contribution, builds momentum, and ultimately helps the community discover its own collective capacity. So this has been my creative project. I hope you have liked it. Thank you.